Hey, this is your host Andres, and I welcome you to Where You Listening, an exploration of blackness in the songs we love. Today we will be listening to Herencia Africana, African Heritage, composed and performed by Yuri Buenaventura. Today's artist was requested by one of our listeners in the St. Louis area in Missouri. Her name is Carmen Dence. Carmen is a retired scientist, but she has not retired from dancing. In fact, she has been the director of the folkloric dance company Grupo Atlántico for more than 20 years. I was a member of her company between the years of 2012 and 2017. Carmen is a great inspiration for those of us who hope to keep dancing our entire lives. I requested singer Yuri Buenaventura, Carmen says, because his album Manigua made a great impression on me. It is rich in lyricism and true community stories. It inspired my choreographic vein to the point that I will be working on his song Donde Estás, Where Are You, for a future project. After Carmen's request, I went through Yuri's production and added several of his songs to our mixtape playlist. From those, I chose the song Herencia Africana from his first 1996 album by the same name. With this song, we finished strong a very eventful year 2020. Before we continue though, I would like to give a big shout out to my former dance community in St. Louis, Missouri, and to its current and former members. You have showed the Mixedtape podcast love, engaging with the material, commenting on our posts, and requesting songs and artists for the Where You Listening series. We are very, very grateful for your support. Keep the requests coming. Okay, let's get into Yuri's intricate story. Yuri was born in Buenaventura, a port city in the Pacific coast of Colombia in 1967. Yuri's birth name was Yuri Alexander Bedoya, which he changed to Yuri Buenaventura to honor his hometown. If you want to know more about the town of Buenaventura and its majority black population, check our episode Buenaventura y Caney, where we talk about the town. Yuri migrated to Paris to study economics in the late 1980s, and he had to work to pay for his studies. As an economist, I gotta say, that was a great choice, Yuri. What happened? Well, Yuri wasn't really feeling the economics field, and he found himself in a difficult financial situation. He narrates in an interview how in various occasions he would steal candles from a nearby church to lit his studio because his electricity had been cut. Ultimately, Yuri recounts that he ended up homeless for 3 years and attempted suicide by jumping off a bridge into the waters of the Seine. Eventually, Yuri found himself in music. He started singing and playing bongo drums in the metro of Paris. He says in an interview, "You could find 50 different nationalities in a single wagon. I liked that music communicated with all of them." Yuri's fortune started to change when Panamanian singer Camilo Azuquita invited him to be part of his orchestra. A couple of years down the line, Yuri would be recording his first album with his own group of Colombian musicians. Today's song, Herencia Africana, belongs to that album. Let's listen. The song starts with the sounds of the ocean, a memory of Yuri's beloved hometown of Buenaventura.
Somos herencia africana, orgullo tengo en mi raza. Somos herencia africana, orgullo tengo en mi raza.
The intro surrounds the chorus of the song its main message with a fitting rumba. It says, "Somos herencia africana, orgullo tengo en mi raza. We are African heritage, I am proud of my race." These verses are a recognition of the African roots of his hometown and more broadly, the African roots of the country and those of Latin America.
Lo que sufrimos para llegar hasta aquí, lo que vivimos para poder ser felices. La libertad es algo que cuesta y por eso yo la defiendo aquí. La libertad es algo que cuesta y por eso yo la defiendo aquí.
Yuri sings, lo que sufrimos para llegar hasta aquí, lo que vivimos para poder ser felices. La libertad es algo que cuesta y por eso yo la defiendo aquí. The suffering we endure to get where we are, the things we lived to be able to be happy. Freedom is something expensive and that is why I defend it here. Yuri is referring to the long suffering of Africans and their descendants in the Americas. Yuri suggests that such suffering creates a deep understanding of the value of freedom. In today's environment, I am amazed by the monumental difference between that understanding of freedom and the rather empty calls of freedom that predominantly white crowds have been uttering in many demonstrations against COVID public health restrictions all over the US.
A los muchachos que quieren transmitir cultura nueva que no son de aquí, quiero decirles que a mí no me interesan y que respeten sus ancestros son de aquí. Quiero decirles que a mí no me interesan y que respeten sus ancestros son de aquí.
By now, you have probably recognized the playful transition between salsa brava and rumba that the song repeats. Here, Yuri sings. A los muchachos que quieren transmitir culturas nuevas que no son de aquí, quiero decirles que a mí no me interesan y que respeten, sus ancestros son de aquí. To the young folks that want to spread new cultures that are not from here, I want to tell them that I am not interested and that they should show respect. Their ancestors are from here. Yuri seems to be very adamant about defending the African roots of the culture. He says in an interview, I quote, "The youngsters are mixing things, but I think they should be very careful with the clave, because the clave is not a thing that was born with salsa 40 years ago. Instead, it comes from Africa. It is heritage that goes back thousands of years. Salsa is a discipline, like the discipline of the bands from before, which sounded compact, tight, rooted, firm, because they were ethnic and cultural unity."
África es la madre de mi música. África es la reina del sabor, armonizada con colombianidad. Les da mi salsa para mi raza, armonizada con colombianidad. Les da mi salsa para mi raza.
Yuri sings, África es la madre de mi música. África es la reina del sabor. Armonizada con colombianidad, les da mi salsa para mi raza. Africa is the mother of my music. Africa is the queen of flavor. Harmonized with colombianidad, which you would translate as something like Colombianity, gives you my salsa music for my race. Loosely speaking, these verses present Yuri's understanding of his racial and ethnic membership. It is unlikely that Yuri was ever racialized as Afro-Colombian. If anything, one could describe him as a light-skinned mestizo, that is, a person whose ancestry likely contains a mixture of races. However, Yuri's compositions, Herencia Africana in particular, reveal a strong connection with and awareness of the African components of the culture of the Pacific coast of Colombia, where he was born and grew up. He declares in an interview that music got to him first through, I quote, the black people from the Pacific. The neighbors were drumming when I was born, he says. Given the history of Colombia and its demographic composition, there is no notion of Colombianidad without African roots. Hence, presenting the notion of Colombianidad and Africa as different components of his music can be a little confusing. However, he might be wanting to highlight separately and honor both Africa and the African diaspora in the Americas.
Y el saoco que yo presento aquí, y el saoco que yo les traigo aquí.
Yuri sings, y el saoco que yo presento aquí, y el saoco que yo les traigo aquí. And the saoco that I present here, and the saoco that I bring to you here. Saoco is a widely used word in the salsa world. In Cuba, it can mean coconut water with rum. In the language of salseros, its meaning is closer to the swing of the music, to the rhythm of great quality, to sabrosura, to flavor. You may have heard the word in many songs. Currently, US-based salsa dancer Ana Saoko has the word as part of her artistic name.
Somos herencia africana, orgullo tengo en mi raza.
The chorus repeats, Somos herencia africana, orgullo tengo en mi raza. We are African heritage, I'm proud of my race.
Cuando trajeron al negro del África madre tierra, lo trajeron como esclavos a laborar minas y tierras.
Now, Yuri does a little bit of call and response with the chorus. He responds, Cuando trajeron al negro del África, madre tierra, los trajeron como esclavos, a laborar minas y tierras. When they brought black people from Africa, the motherland, they brought them enslaved to work in mines and fields. Yuri's lyrics here draw from the history of colonialism and slavery in Colombia. As Sasha Carolina Herrera comments in her master's dissertation from Georgetown University, I quote, In the 17th century, due to the expansion of mines and haciendas, and once the indigenous population had considerably diminished due to harsh treatment, extermination, or fallen victims of Europeans' diseases, slaves replaced indigenous workforce in livestock and farming haciendas and mining. She continues, Mining and huge haciendas became dominant economic activities in the Pacific region, and this continues through the present. Both institutions were sustained by the colonial slavery system. Yuri sings, y los que no nos callamos, nos unimos en palenques, defendimos nuestra raza, nos volvimos cimarrones, África. And those of us who did not shut up, we united in palenques, we defended our race, we became cimarrones. Cimarrones refers to the enslaved Africans and Afro-descendants who escaped their enslavers. Palenques, also known as quilombos in Brazil, were settlements often created by cimarrones, which also included free blacks who were not running away. San Basilio de Palenque is the most famous palenque in Colombia. The members of the group Conviles a mí, which we have in our playlist, are all originally from this town. Yury's last word summarizes the feeling that inspires the song. He emphatically shouts, Africa.
Conversa, hermano, que Chango te está escuchando.
Finally, Yuri invites the listener to speak up because the African deities are listening. He says, Conversa, hermano, que Chango te está escuchando. Speak up, brother, that Chango is listening. Chango is likely the most mentioned orisha in salsa music. No surprise, really. He is the dancer's orisha and the drummer among drummers in the Yoruba tradition. Next, Yuri lets the instruments take over for a little bit. The song closes using the same message it opened with, underscoring the African roots of the Latin culture in general and the Pacific Colombian culture in particular. Somos Herencia Africana. We are African heritage. Because Yuri has spent all of his career in France, he's actually more famous there than he is in Colombia. Proof of that is that I did not know about him until earlier this year when I discovered him through one of my favorite songs at the moment, also in our playlist, the song Cali es Sabrosura. Give it a listen, you won't regret it. Yuri has become such a staple of the Afro-Latin music in France that he has earned the nickname El Sonero de París, the Sonero of Paris. And you know from our last episode the meaning of sonero. Yuri was awarded in 2014 with the Order of Arts and Letters in the degree of Knight from the French Embassy in Colombia. Carmen, our listener who requested Yuri, inspired by Yuri's album Manigua, sent me a picture of the text he wrote for the cover of the album. Carmen says she wanted his words to express the relevance and significance of his work. This is a small extract of his texts, which exemplifies the body of his work. I quote, "This album is the fruit of the journey of the drum across the Pacific and the Caribbean regions of the Americas. It has also elements of the African American music, and it contains the lyricism that disembarked in the Americas in the 17th century. His words reveal a fascination with what the drum represents. Speaking about the drums played in the Americas, he says in an interview, I quote, "The drums have a history of blood, of freedom, of love, of emancipation." And he reiterates in another interview, I quote again, "Our spine is the drum that comes from Africa."
Hey, this is Mel, jumping on to say thank you for listening. We've been working overtime over the last 6 months to deliver content that helps build awareness and knowledge around anti-racism and lifting up Black joy within our own dance spaces. However, we want to regroup to offer you content in a more sustainable way. Andres is a tenure-track professor of economics at UNC, and I'm a social work student also at UNC. We'd like to succeed in our respective career ventures, so please be patient with us as we take a break until sometime in January or February to plan and reorganize. Our episodes are community-driven, so we invite you to send us your ideas for new content and tell us who you would like to hear from on the podcast. Also, don't forget to request songs for our Were You Listening series. Embark on this journey with us as a community to understand the songs we love to dance to. It's always fun to engage with y'all in ways that steer the direction of our research. It's been a full and exciting year to build and learn the ways that add depth to our dance experience. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you in the next year.
Thank you for being here with me today. If you weren't listening, now you are.